So the next section is about text purposes and text patterns. Whenever authors write, they have a purpose for spending the time and going through the writing process, and it could be to inform, which is give information on a topic. That's what your textbooks are. They're informational texts. That's a lot of times what journal or magazine articles are. Sometimes the author wants to analyze and go really deeply into a subject or into an event or into an object or into a concept. If it is an analytic piece of writing, you're going to approach it differently than if it's general information. Sometimes the authors write to evaluate, and they're evaluating the effectiveness of something. And that can be a mix of factual information as well as an opinion. And sometimes the authors write to persuade. Excuse me. And the purpose of persuasive writing is to get the audience to think about a topic or an issue the same way as the author. And in one of our modules, you're going to be writing an argument or a persuasive piece of writing. Now, these are all over social media. These are letters to the editor. These are opinion pieces in the newspaper. The purpose of those is to sway the audience's thoughts. So we have to identify the purpose for the author writing the piece, and then we begin to evaluate the piece itself. We find the main idea, whether it's stated or implied, and then we get into those details, the major and minor details. So we're going to look at it as a reader and as a writer. Okay. So when we're reading, we need to recognize the patterns that the author uses to organize their ideas. It doesn't matter if it's to inform, persuade, any of those. We need to figure out, well, what pattern is this author using to support his or her main idea? And there are some standard patterns that you're going to be looking at in this section. So if you understand the pattern, you unlock the organization of the text. And it makes marking and annotating and turning those into notes so much easier. Now, authors can use one overriding pattern throughout an essay or a piece of writing. They could be doing a comparison the entire time, or they can mix patterns within one paragraph. So as a reader, we need to identify the patterns, and then as a writer, we get to use those patterns to help organize our thoughts, organize our details. So the textbook looks at these patterns: narration, definition, illustration, classification, compare, contrast, cause and effect, and process analysis. So what I want you to do is use the chart that's in Blackboard as a note-taking sheet. And as you read through and read about these patterns, I want you to fill out that note sheet so that you have a 1-page or 2-page overview of all of these patterns, the signal transition words that the author uses, and when an author uses those patterns. Because if you can figure out what pattern is being used, is it comparison? Is it analysis? Is it classification? It makes reading for comprehension and figuring out the major and minor details super easy.